The indie local scene is starting the second season of our off-season draft league, and I'm back once again coaching the Azalea Town Azumarills after a top 8 finish in last year's season. We have a much bigger league this time around and a new drafting system as opposed to last year. And of course, we're in Pokemon Champions as opposed to Scarlet and Violet. So I'm excited to run back the draft league and then talk a little bit about the draft that we had over the last week or so. So this year we have 8 tiers S through G for our draft. Last year we had a point-based system. Every team was allotted a certain number of points, and we drafted mons that were assigned a point value. But this year, every Pokemon is just placed into a tier, and you pick exactly one from each tier. You can't replace, you can't pair down, no trading. It's exactly one from every tier, and that's the way it'll be for the whole season. This season we've got 36 players on the same Snake draft board. But we're split into 2 conferences of 18, so our regular season is 8 weeks, and you will only play 8 other people that are in your conference as well, but the draft order was randomized without respect to the conferences, and so there wasn't any kind of A, B kind of thing. It was just random, and I actually drafted at position 31 out of 36, way towards the end, so I'm kind of the back half of the snake. And one additional rule that we implemented this season is that every Pokemon on your team must come to at least 4 games throughout the regular season. Games, not sets. And so this is just to ensure that you aren't just bringing your 6 best guys every week, and then that kind of gets to be a little bit boring. So this is to encourage a little bit of creativity and team building. As for the draft itself, this was our draft board. It's a little bit small, you can kind of take a look, but we are playing in Regulation MB, and our commissioners got to work immediately after MB was announced, putting everything into a draft board. But of course, they can only do so much, and so there are definitely some picks here that might have been overrated, some that are underrated, and so it's kind of incumbent on us as the players to figure out which Pokemon that we think are being undervalued and then grab them onto our teams as soon as we can. Being the 31st pick, 30 people pick in front of me, this is what the draft looks like at the time that my first pick comes around. You can see people are mostly concentrated in the upper tiers, the S tiers especially. They all kind of went very quickly, and you know that I have to grab my guy Azumarill as my first pick. Because there's no trading in this league, I'm incentivized. I really want Azumarill, of course, and so I'm incentivized to pick him first in case he gets sniped on the way back. And so last season, I actually held off on Azumarill for a long while, trying to build a team that Azumarill would slot well into, and Azumarill actually got sniped. And so I actually ended up having to trade a Namorous incarnate form for Azumarill. Probably made my team a little bit weaker, but I did end up with Azumarill at the end of the day. This season, we're not making the same mistake. We're just grabbing Azumarill right off the bat. Of course, with Azumarill, I'm looking to do kind of physical offense stuff. The Citrus Belly Drum set immediately comes to mind. I would really like Fake Out to help enable that, as well as like Rage Powder, or some sort of redirection. Trick Room would be great because the Azumarill is quite slow as well. I'm immediately thinking I really want Sinistra, and we see Sinistra is still available in the S tier of the draft. Unfortunately, even though I'm at the back end of the snake, there's only 10 picks between here and the next one. Sinistra does get taken as somebody's first pick as their S tier. So I immediately lose Sinistra, and I'm kind of in panic mode at this point. Additionally, I can still look for Fake Out, but Mega Gengar actually did get drafted to my conference, and so that makes Fake Out a little bit unreliable, especially since my Trick Room setter eventually is going to be presumably like Psychic or Ghost type. Mega Gengar looks to threaten that really heavily, and so I immediately decide to forego a higher tier pick and grab regular Kangaskhan as my second pick. One thing to note is that if you draft a Pokemon that has a Mega Evolution, the Mega and the base form are separate. So the person that drafted Mega Kangaskhan out of A tier, I believe, here it is, that Kangaskhan, you can use it in its base form, but it does have to hold the Mega Stone. For me, I can put any item on this Kangaskhan except for the Mega Stone. So I've got a little bit of flexibility, but they, of course, have the potential to Mega Evolve and get the really strong pick. So I've got my Azumarill, I've got Fake Out support for it, by the time the draft comes back around to me, many picks later, um, the S tiers are mostly gone. There's only 5 left here, and there are 3 of us that haven't picked our S tiers yet. One of them I'm very certain is going to take Rotom Wash, and so, which is fine by me. I'm looking kind of at Charizard X or Scovillain at this point. Because I know that I can kind of wait on my S tiers for a little bit because there's not very many people that can still even pick an S tier, I decide to go to the A tier, and I decide to draft Dragapult here. Dragapult is basically the speed ceiling for this conference because the Mega Aerodactyl and Mega Sceptile ended up going to the other conference, so Dragapult is going to be quite fast. It's a fake autoimmune Pokemon. I can run lots of support moves on it. I can run a little bit more offensively as well. And I was still kind of undecided on Scovillain and Zard X at the time, so picking Dragapult helps me kind of value Scovillain a little bit more. It gives me the Dragon type immediately. Maybe I don't need to worry. If Zard X were to get sniped, then I've already got my bases covered with Dragapult here. Not too many picks later, because I'm at the back end of the snake, I really want my Trick Room setter. I was looking at Reuniclus and Weirdeer for some amount of time, and they both have their pros and cons, but eventually I settled on Musharna. I actually was the first person to pick out of the G tier, and before the draft even started, I thought Musharna was quite undervalued based on its stats compared to a bunch of the other kind of the trash mons that are in this tier. Though, as much as I think Musharna is good for the team, I do think it was a bit of a mistake drafting it this early. I think I got a little bit spooked because some people were talking about Musharna, and I kind of was worried that they were going to grab it before me, and so I grabbed it quickly here. But what I really want at this point is Lucario. I think Lucario out of the D tier is looking quite strong for me. I have Dragapult, so I already have this Ghost type. I can get Ghost fighting offensive synergy. Dragapult additionally gets beat up, and Lucario gets justified, so I can do some funny beat up shenanigans. Lucario is a Steel type, and so that will help complete the Dragon Steel Fairy Fantasy Core between Azumarill, Dragapult, and Lucario as well. So Lucario's looking real good for me. Probably should have taken it here, but unfortunately 60-some picks later, and Lucario does get sniped. So at this point, I'm kind of scrambling because I don't know what to do about the D tier anymore since I really wanted Lucario. And the D tier picks, they're getting a little skimpy, and I actually am one of only 2 teams that doesn't have a Mega Evolution at this point. So I probably should pick one up. That's just a power bump that I should probably have in my team somewhere. And I'm looking around at what Mega options are available, and I eventually decide on a Mega Pinsir out of the E tier. This is another bit of good, fast physical damage. The team does skew kind of physical right now, but I think Pinsir as just like a flying type offense is nice to have. It's got a good speed tier that helps elevate the team's fast mode somewhat. And actually, another thing that made me feel a little bit more confident about drafting Mega Pinsir was that both Aerodactyl forms had been drafted to the other conference, so I don't need to worry about basically the only good rock type in the game. And so Mega Pinsir is now on the team. He's looking kind of comfortable. So by the time the draft comes back around to me, I kind of decide that the D tier, I'm still not quite sure what I want to do about it. Mega Chimecho would have been cool for getting Trick Room and a Steel type at the same time, but I already have Musharna, and so they kind of overlap a little bit too much for my tastes. So I decide to let the people pick my D tier. I'm going to just leave the D tier for a little bit later, and then just let people pick out of the D tier, and I'll just take whatever's left. So out of the F tier, I still do want some bit of fighting type synergy, so I grab Passimian. Passimian also does have a little bit of funny shenanigans it can do. I can pass huge power to it with Azumarill, with Passimian's receiver ability. Additionally, it's just strong close combats off of base 120 attack. That's kind of hard to pass up, especially out of the lower tier, as F tier. So by the time that I get back around to my next pick, Jolteon is looking basically like the only D tier that's worth taking for my team at this point. Obviously, I don't want another fighting type. Alakazam is a type overlap with Musharna. Pikachu is Fake Out, but I don't think I can support the Pikachu well enough. And so we grab Jolteon here. Jolteon's another bit to help with the fast mode. It's got Electro Webs to help with speed control. It's additional special damage, which we don't have that much of on the team just yet. We basically just have Dragapult. That can work off of base 100 special attack. So not super impressive. So Jolteon is a little bit more fast special damage, which I think the team needed. And lastly, we're coming down to our S tier pick. At this point, there's actually only 2 of us that haven't picked our S tiers. And a few rounds ago, actually around round 4 or 5, we actually ended up talking to each other and deciding that on which S tiers we would pick individually, so that both of us could focus on taking our low tier picks and know that we wouldn't get sniped out of our S tier. So there's a little bit of background collusion happening. And so by the time a few more picks happen, my S tier has actually already, around the time that I had Musharna, I've already decided which S tier that I wanted. And I just left it there since I knew that it was not in danger of being sniped. We grab Mega Scovillain. So Charizard X was kind of nice. Fire type is cool. I have Fake Out already to help with setting up Dragon Dances and whatnot, and actually it's still got very respectable special attack stat. It can work as a special attacker too. But Scovillain here, I think the redirection is quite nice. To help my bulkier pieces like Musharna and Azumarill somewhat. Dragapult as its support option with screens can help make the Scovillain bulkier, spread burns a little bit more easily. So Scovillain also completes Fire, Water, Grass with Azumarill, so even though I don't get my Steel type, I do get Fire, Water, Grass at the very least, and I have 2 out of the 3 pieces of the Fantasy Core. Mega Chimecho would have been nice to have for Musharna, but because I had already decided on Mega Scovillain, I can't Mega both Chimecho and Scovillain in the same battle. It'd be nice if I could, but ultimately I decide on, and I guess I could use normal Scovillain just as a Rage Powder bot for Mega Chimecho, but I kind of decide that Musharna's stats are just a little bit more reliable and you don't have to commit the Mega slot. So this is the HDA Season 2 edition of the Azalea Town Azumarills. I'm glad to have Azumarill back on the squad, supported by another fire grass type. We had Hearthflame Ogerpon last season, which I think is a little bit better than Scovillain, but we don't have him in the game yet, so Scovillain will have to do. Pretty happy with the draft. Again, a Steel type would have been kind of nice. Lucario basically would have been kind of nice if I had timed my draft picks a little bit better. But I think I've got a good mix of offense and support options. I've got a slow mode, I've got a fast mode, so hopefully that gives me enough flexibility to do well in the league this time around. So we did get a top 8 finish in last season's edition of the HDA, so if we can improve that to a top 4 or even a finalist or championship, that'd be kind of sick. But we'll have to kind of see how it goes. So I will be doing my best to stream my matches whenever I can, get the VODs posted up as well, so that y'all can follow along. So with that, thanks, and I'm looking forward to the season.